Good afternoon. My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. I'd like to welcome each of you and thank you for joining today's webinar, Securing Personal Data. Today is the first of 4 Security Education Series webinars for clients and friends of Foster & Motley. I'd like to thank our friends at Foster & Motley who envisioned the need for this information and have been actively involved in the planning for these webinars. Glad you've joined. Our goal in this series is to inform and educate, to improve knowledge and to provide practical information about what to change security-wise and how to do so. So today will be probably the fastest paced webinar. We're going to overview in one half-hour session what are all the basic components of a complete security program. In subsequent webinars on this coming Tuesday and then 2 more next week, we'll dive into email security practices in some depth, very important topic. We'll look at file encryption and cloud security, important principles there. And then possibly the most important, we'll talk about practical issues surrounding password management, a problem for all of us. So today's topic, securing personal data. So the overview, the principles involved, the fundamentals of secure information starts with making sure that the PC or PCs or devices that I use are secure. So we'll talk about how do you make the devices secure in the first place, what kind of protections do we put in place. What is involved in protecting important personal files? And protection in this context means encryption. We'll talk more about that. How do we keep our documents secure when transmitting them by email primarily? Some issues surrounding backup. We're going to talk about online monitoring, which is a way to know if we've put the measures in place that our data should be safe. Is it safe? How are our PCs doing? And then I want to talk about training, because I want to say that those of you who are attending today are the, quote, smart ones. You know that there is some level of information that's important that you need. So many of you already know a lot about security and may want to confirm or increase specific areas of knowledge. Some have an understanding of security basics, but you know there may be some holes in your knowledge. And some of you, you know security is important and you know that it's time to learn, time to take action. Hopefully, and I believe there will be something of value for everyone. So I want to make one note. I talk quickly anyway, but in this webinar particularly, I will move quickly. I apologize in advance for speaking quickly, but this is a heads up. If you're doing something else while listening, you may miss some content. So thanks again for joining. So piece of background, some of you know and are aware of PBSI from work in the business and healthcare and professional services world. PBSI provides security and technology assistance for hundreds of organizations and individuals in the tri-state, including Foster & Motley, a valued client, and the relationship forming the genesis of the idea for today's webinar. So one of the things that's true at PBSI, I'm the CEO, but I'm blessed. We have a large number of staff who are very, very experienced. 75% of our group have 10 or more years of experience with PBSI, and our focus is on technology and security monitoring. So thanks again for joining. Why do we need protection? For most of you, this is really not new information. You know this, but the fact is PCs today increasingly are being infected with malware that steals passwords and copies data. Stealing passwords is called keylogging. Phishing attempts and attacks, I believe it's a familiar term for most of you, but the bad guys are smart, they're motivated, and they are relentless. So a key issue here, the victim is typically not notified. Keylogging malware may be currently, it's speculated, installed on millions of PCs where data is being compromised and the end user at the PC does not know it. So there is an issue, and this is not an attempt by me to promote fear. This is simply stating the reality of what we see in the technology world. So as you'll see, we've learned there's a running ticker on exposed emails. There are now 2.7 billion exposed emails available for sale on the dark web. Of them, 1.2 billion, yes, billion, include exposed passwords. So why that's relevant is once someone's email has been compromised, whether it's from LinkedIn, Yahoo, Gmail, DocuSign, Adobe, all of these sites that have been compromised, there's a password associated with them. Once that password is associated with that email, it gives hackers a very, very valuable tool to take advantage and do some intentional attacks, and they do. So many are aware that Experian was hacked earlier this year. Experian hack was smaller than all of the above breaches. and 30 others. So if you really want to be frightened, I'm going to go to a web link now that shows the largest breaches in the past year, and I'm going to click View All Breaches, and this shows in largest to smallest sequence, 593 million, 393 million. I have to scroll all the way down to multiple pages down before we get to Experian hack. So the point there is that our data has been compromised, and now we're in an environment where we have no choice but to behave in a way that secures and fights as best we can the bad guys who are out there who can do and are attacking. So first step, secure our PC. So the fundamentals of securing a PC, laptop, other portable devices, and Mac is to include and make sure you have installed a current up-to-date antivirus. So most people understand this today, but we find many still who use a free antivirus. So what you can know is that all antivirus vendors have non-free versions. So what's the difference? So the point there is a difference between the non-free and the free version. Don't take the risk. They're not expensive. Patch management, another key principle. So this is the one place I'm going to talk about patch management in some depth. I'll do a demonstration of how this works in just a bit, but patch management is really important. This is the term describing making sure our PCs are all set to auto-update, not just antivirus, but Windows, apps, and browsers. This means Adobe, Apple, Microsoft, Quicken, all major software vendors. I'm not saying buy the next version. I'm saying when they issue a patch and you get a message that says there's an update available for major software product, the answer always is yes, you want to install that update. And when the prompt then comes, do you want to reboot? The answer is always yes. So here's the reason. Once security patches are released, there's a pattern that happens hundreds of times per year at least, and the pattern is this. Security flaw is identified in a vendor's software product. So this is just recently, there's been a big to-do over the first of the year about Spectre and other names where there's been a security flaw, in this case, identified in Intel and other processors, actually in the hardware, which requires software vendors to create security patches. But that's just an example. It happens just all the time. Security patches are released by Microsoft for Word version 10, blah, 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 or for OneNote, or for Apple iTunes, whatever the software product is. Once the vendor fixes the patch, they communicate with security companies like Bitdefender and Symantec and McAfee, and they identify, okay, there's a security patch coming. We want you to be aware of it. We're going to release it on this date, and they release it. So at that time, now the rest of the hacker community worldwide has now been put on alert. Oh, I didn't know there was a flaw in Windows version X. Gee, they fixed this because you could get in this way. Let me see. Oh, what do you know? We can take advantage of that. And immediately the race is on where hackers are going to begin sending probes to every IP address they can find worldwide to find if there's a door that is open and they can install their keylogging, phishing, or ransomware software. And the way to prevent that is to install patches as quickly as possible. There's some practical implications here, but at least a couple times a week, that's what we do for clients, so that security patches are updated before the hackers can attack. There are so many examples. I could go on and on about the very public thefts of data and compromise that have taken place, including the Experian hack, where if all of the PCs and servers in an organization had been patch updated, the hack would have had no success. It never would have worked. So really important, much more than a minor issue. Have the right antivirus in place, have your patches up to date. So some minor things here, or I should say secondary things, on your phones and mobile devices, presuming you may include some information there that you would not want to get in the public, take the simple step of putting a passcode on your phone. I presume most of you have done that, but it's really important. Anything that's portable, make sure there's a password or passcode. Another key thing with laptops or portable devices, I know it's convenient to auto-store passwords so that when you log into a website, the password automatically fills in. Do not do this on portable devices. So if you have a phone where it's passcode protected, then that's okay. But if you have a device that doesn't require a password to get into it, do not store autofill passwords. Just some minor things that are actually just very important. They're simple to execute. Okay, another key, wireless. So wireless technology contains risks that are special. So why is that true? Free, really mean free. Hacker tools are available that a high school student can download today, or available to decrypt almost any password given proximity and sufficient time. So wireless is what gives proximity. That includes cars and nearby houses and somebody parked in front of your neighbor's house. That's proximity sufficient for most wireless to gain access. So if they have that proximity for a period of hours or a day or more, then they can crack virtually any password. So the best defense on your home wireless network is a long and complex password. So I don't necessarily advocate that long and that complex in most situations, but it's because the proximity issue with wireless is so hard to determine. You're not really sure whether any house that you can see your wireless or not. Okay, so these are some basics. I'm moving on. The first point here is put the tools in place to secure your laptops and your PCs. So I'm going to talk specifically about important information that needs to be protected while at rest. So the term at rest means while sitting on a hard drive. So you've stored a document, that's at rest. It's not open, it's not being edited, it's not being transmitted by email. So this is probably the most difficult to do and possibly most often violated principle. We have our tax return in PDF. We have an Excel file of our balance sheet that we've downloaded from Quicken. We have all kinds of examples where we have protected, important to protect information that sits on our hard drives. So why do we want to encrypt it, and what is encryption? Encryption is a simple term that simply means that the information when stored is garbled, and it can't be ungarbled or can't be read without a private key. That's the password. So the encryption of a file happens when you associate a password with it. So encryption security varies based on the technology used and the length of the key. Again, if somebody doesn't have proximity, if they don't have, they're not sitting in your driveway with your access to your wireless, or if they don't have a keylogger sitting on your PC, then these things basically are not at risk. However, the point is proximity and access is no longer nearly as secure as we once thought it was. So encrypt data that can be stolen. So which file should we encrypt? Anything that has personally identifiable information or protected health information, PII or PHI. That includes anything where a name is related to a social security number, credit card number, CCV, date of birth, account numbers, driver's license numbers, passport numbers, anything that has diagnosis codes, things where when combined with a name, the information is valued. And there is an algorithm when data on the dark web is sold, that a name by itself is worthless. A name with an email address is worth a very small amount. Add a password to it, worth more. Add a credit card, add a CCV, more data you have together, the more valuable that set of data is. So you and I don't know anything about this marketplace, and hopefully we never will, but we do know that the marketplace exists. So from whom are you protecting your information? The answer is future hackers. Yeah, you might be protecting it from family members, but the fact is, if a piece of malware infected your computer such that it could learn what's there, and I'm going to give you a short demonstration after a bit how this can happen. What could they learn? What could they steal? And you know to what extent the keys to the kingdom, quote, are stored in information on your PC. The more the, quote, keys to the kingdom are stored, the more you want to protect that by encryption. So first point is at rest, store files with passwords. And it's a really simple thing to do. If you know how to do this, there's in the third webinar this week, we're going to go through a workshop on how to encrypt, and we're going to go through a demonstrated example how to encrypt a file. But it's very simple. You save it with the password, and as long as the password is sufficient, you have encrypted, you've protected that document at rest. So now we go to transmitting files, far more vulnerable. The likelihood that somebody can access and will access my PC, it's there, but it's not in the same level. When I send an attachment to an email, or if I send text in an email with a social security number or something like that, That passes through the internet, and you may think this is magic and this would never happen, but there are programs out there that interpret every flow of data looking for something that looks like it might be useful, Social Security numbers, dates of birth, and so forth. And when they see a stream of data, they can capture, copy, and interpret. They cannot do that if the file is encrypted. So encrypt email attachments. So information that you're sending to your accountant, to Foster and Motley, there are very predictable places and times when we email information that is potentially worthwhile to a hacker, and it's then we need to pay attention and make sure our emails are encrypted. So there are 3 ways to protect email. One is to encrypt attachments. That means store the file I'm about to send with a password, and then send the file as an attachment in the email and communicate to the recipient in the email via a different medium. Don't send them an email saying the email I just sent you has this password. Send them a text, give them a voice message, or in some way hide. So it's just a very bad idea to send information and the password along with it. But an encrypted attachment is one way it works. So better is to encrypt the email. So no email is encrypted out of the box. So there are certain versions of Office 365. If you pay a couple dollars a month more for Office 365, or there are other services that range from a few dollars to $20 a month per email address that allow you to place encryption in an email. So there are all kinds of choices, but the point is standard email. If you have Gmail or using Outlook, you don't have the ability to encrypt your email unless you have a specific add-on software product. It's simple to do, and highly recommend this. Just install the tools to allow you to do this. You can encrypt the attachment or encrypt the email or use a secured file sharing site. So Foster and Motley has thought long and hard about how to keep clients' data secure. So for quite a long time, they've provided this tool called Client Vault. And if you're not familiar how to use Client Vault, get in touch with your Foster and Motley associate, and you can get descriptions how to do this. But it allows basically you to set up a secure VPN. That's a virtual private network. It's a tunnel that is encrypted so that once you connect to Client Vault, you can transfer files there and let Foster and Motley know that it's there. So it's a very secure provision that doesn't cause you to need to attempt encrypt attachments or email. So the point is, don't send unsecure documents via email. So encrypt at rest, and very important, encrypt during transmission. So we protect our PCs, we protect our data, and this is very simple. Hopefully everyone listening already backs up all your documents, but I can tell you in 30 years in the technology business, there is such rampant disregard. People say, yeah, I know it's important, and I back up, but when is the last time you backed up? So a couple of things here. You do not want to be, like has not happened very frequently, but probably on the order of once a year, we get a call from a client and, oh my gosh, I thought I was backing up. I realized it wasn't working. My hard drive failed. And you don't want to be that person or in that situation. So fortunately, this is very inexpensive to accomplish. There are multiple ways to back up, and we'll dive into this in another session in some more detail. But you can back up locally to a removable drive, you can back up to the cloud, or you can back up to both. So I'll show a short demonstration of how cloud backup can be a very useful medium. So protect our PCs, protect our files, make sure we have backups. So I'm now going to demonstrate something that we call online security monitoring. So the point here is we put the tools in place to make sure that our data is protected, but then how do we know if they're working? So the good news here, there is an inexpensive and readily available method. PBSI is not the only company to do online security monitoring, but I'm going to show you how this would work and what it would do. The idea of online security monitoring is you set up a relationship where a vendor places an agent on your PC. That agent now publishes to a secure website every 15 minutes or every hour various information about what's going on your PC so that a technician force can securely see the status of several important areas. So vulnerability scanning, patch management, data breach scanning, and online backup monitoring are all a part of this. So I'm going to go now and do a short demonstration. So what you see on this screen is a live website that is monitored all day long during work hours and also monitored electronically 24/7, but the daytime hours monitored by PBSI technicians, and we're monitoring a group of clients that have either servers or PCs or phones being monitored. What I have done in this case, on the left-hand side, we select which client. So if I were a PBSI technician, which I'm not, the selection on the left-hand side would be all clients. So the things displayed on the top panel, the north panel, would be all the problem servers or PCs at all clients. So in this case, these are all, I've selected workstations on the north panel, the top panel here. Here are all the PCs at PBSI, and a technician can click on one of these, and once a PC is selected in the north panel, the south panel describes all the details about that PC. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select a certain PC, but a technician is not doing that. They're waiting for alerts and dealing with the high priority items. So I just made a search for all the PCs at PBSI with the name Ray in them, and I'm selecting my desktop. So I'm selecting here on our monitoring site the PC at which I'm sitting as I'm speaking to you. So at my PC, Ray cannot see the things that are on this screen. A technician can see them, and this is kind of the point. I don't want to have to hassle with looking at this and seeing if everything's okay. I want somebody to do it for me, and since it's very inexpensive, it's a perfect opportunity where somebody who's focused on this will do the job more effectively, certainly for a lot less money, and get the hassle out of my court. So when we select Ray's PC, down here in the south panel, there are a number of things, some of them hardware related. Hard drive space is getting smaller, service checks. There are some security things that are checked, and I'm going to talk about just the key ones, and I'll spend a very short amount of time. So failed logins, this means that there is no agent trying to keylog passwords on my PC. There's been no failed login attempts. So there are certain things here which immediately come to the surface. If something's going on, it would be seen at the top level. So we know that antivirus is up to date. We know that vulnerability scans are being done nightly. And the colors green, yellow, and red are important to the technicians. They would have a highlight. If there was something that wasn't green here, they would know that they could look into this set of detail a bit more. But at a high level, the things being monitored are that vulnerability scans are being run, so we know that things are being looked at and reported at least every hour on this PC. We know that patches are up to date. So here's a case where there have been a bunch of patches installed on Ray's PC because these happen automatically, and there are these 5 that are pending. As I mentioned, we do patch updates twice a week automatically on Tuesday evenings and Saturday evenings. So if you were to come to Thursday's webinar, you'd see this list will look different. So these have been selected for, and they'll be updated on Tuesday evening. So that's all good. You can see, however, in some cases, some of these fail, some of these haven't yet been selected, and that's where a technician gets involved and says, what's going on here, that this update wasn't successful. So patch management is not only implemented, it's monitored. Antivirus status, we would again get alerts if there were active virus activity, but here's my history. There was a virus on this PC that was deleted in September of 2016, so that's just what we want to see. But the point is, if something more current had happened, there would have been an alert, and before Ray knew that there was a virus on his PC, technicians would be getting involved and looking at this. Okay, so a couple other things. We also want to know the status of data on Ray's PC. So there's an option that I have set on my PC to scan data at risk. So this directly relates to what's the important data that has protected information. And this screen, in fact, is a snapshot of the scan that was run on Ray's PC last night. And it says there is something worth $1,000 on Ray's PC. So there's an algorithm. It has some social security numbers in it, and it has 1 or more dates of birth in it. And a technician is alerted to that, and they can go look and they see that there is a file on Ray's PC in the documents folder called sample file with dumpy SS numbers. And sure enough, there are social security numbers and a date of birth. Now I leave this file on this PC so that the scan will find it every night as it does, and it does its job exactly. So if you had a tax return in PDF or you had some other information that wasn't encrypted, it would find it on your PC. Okay, one other thing we can monitor is backups. So backups have taken place every day we'd see a green line on top of each day when backup worked successfully. We'd be alerted with errors any day it wasn't successful, so there's nobody wondering whether backup is taking place successfully. So there are more things that get learned by monitoring, but hopefully that quick demonstration identifies that for a very small amount of money, and I'll get more specific with costs at the end of webinar. And this webinar is not about selling products. We know that there are cost-effective solutions, whether from PBSI or elsewhere, but the point here is you can have your PCs monitored, and it's very worthwhile doing that because then you know if things are okay. Put the right tools in place, and then you have somebody paying attention. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to a short list, and we'll dive into each of these areas in more detail in other webinars, but I'm going to mention key is email security. It's the single most hacked and taken advantage of process where somebody doesn't recognize the difference between a solicited and an unsolicited email, and we either open an attachment or we click on a link. That includes email, that includes news. Don't get your news from your email. So there's a list of principles that we'll go through in detail in upcoming webinar, the one this week on Thursday. Some other principles: don't download software unless it's really critical. So many problems happen where software, whether it's is your PC running slowly, download this free analysis to fix your problems. Most of those, frankly, are malware, and they don't help you. They hurt you, and they leave forevermore trails of processes running on your PC. Be very careful about software downloads. So web links, be very careful. Don't use public Wi-Fi for anything where you need to log in a password. Again, this is a topic for another webinar. I'll just leave it at that for now, but public Wi-Fi is a big no-no for anything you need to log into. So here are some key principles outside of today's topic. Some other things I'll just mention: fake download buttons. This happens frequently. If you see a button in a box that looks like it's from a website that so frequently it's not from a website. Another item: the phone is increasingly used. I assume you may have seen what I have seen is more phone calls coming in from 513 area codes or whatever your area code is. The technology is there where they can seem local, and they're vishing. This is the same thing as phishing by email, vishing by voice. Guarantee Microsoft will not call you to see if your computer is running slowly. Pop-up advertisements, stay away, avoid unfamiliar sites. So these are just some basics. Again, we'll have some more depth on these. So to summarize, since we're almost finished, we will be done at 1:30. Today's topics include secure your desktops and your laptops with antivirus and a patch management process, and make sure that your wireless is secure. Learn how to encrypt sensitive information at rest and in transit. Make sure your files are backed up, and have it be automated. The automation that's so easy, and you're not paying any extra to have it automatically take place every night or 3 times a week or whatever your schedule you just decide. Just don't have it sit there until 6 months later you've forgotten about it. Make sure your files are backed up regularly. Online monitoring can help to know if everything is okay. And then finally, we'll talk about this in another session: training, which you're doing today. I applaud and commend you for wanting to gain knowledge in this area. So in summary, I want to thank you for your attendance. I want to thank our friends at Foster & Motley for having the vision to know that clients need this information. Folks out there, I'm not saying any one of you or me individually, but so many don't know how to keep our documents secure, and that's the purpose of these webinars. So there are a couple of handouts that will automatically come to you. There's a list of services that are available from PBSI, and these have been discounted by 25% for Foster & Motley clients. We offer concierge security services for individuals as well as for organizations. So you can have a one-time on-site person come out and evaluate your PCs, as long as it's during the daytime, whether it's in home or in an office, wherever it is, and take care of everything that's there in one fell swoop. And then you can set up antivirus and online monitoring, data breach scanning, online backup, and security training, which these are individually available. Just want to make you aware about what the cost would be if you decided to pursue these ideas. So thank you for your attendance. If you have questions call or email. Here's my contact information personally. So today's webinar, we've talked about securing personal information. This Thursday, we'll delve into email security in some depth. How to avoid bad emails. How do I know what to look for in an email? We'll talk about a workshop for file encryption and cloud security, and we'll deal with password management next Thursday. So thank you for your attention. We are finished. Hope everybody has a good day.